in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving higher, time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving higher.
Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast. This week, it's not really even this week, I've got my good buddy Brent Carlson from the Dryland Farmer Podcast on there. And we used to have a segment that we called the morning show, then it went to the Wednesday show, and then it went back to the Wednesday morning show, and then it's like Saturday evening show, or whenever we have time to make it happen. So mostly that's my fault. But this edition of the whatever we're calling this show now, outside of the Moving Iron Podcast, is brought to you by Dawson Tire and Wheel, your premier ag tire and wheel provider in North America. Also, Tractor Zoom, delivering insights. Brent, what's going on, man?
I know what we can call it. It's whenever Casey Seymour is in a good mood podcast. That's what we need to call it.
Man, I've been busy.
I've been covered up, man. I had like 3 million podcasts I had to edit last weekend, and I'm still just now getting done.
I was busy, man. I had stuff going on. This real job thing gets in the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to feed the kids, I guess.
I know, yeah.
No, it's all good. We've had an emotional roller coaster of coronavirus happenings, not the actual virus, but how it affects our day-to-day life and how we're going to decide if we're going to cross the entire state of Texas to go to a steer show or not.
Yeah. Did they not cancel that? I figured everything else has been canceled.
They canceled the entire Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. They did that this past. Let's see when they do that. They did this past Thursday, last week. Yeah, this past week on Thursday evening, they came out. They had a big press conference, and they canceled the entire Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. It was still scheduled. It wasn't going to be over until the March the 22nd, I believe. And we were supposed to be down. We were supposed to leave this morning to go to Houston. Actually, not to Houston, but to Belleville or Brenham, which is just north of Houston, about an hour, to stay there for a couple of days before we went into Houston. And so they had a big press conference, and they shut down the entire, not just like the steer show, the cat hog show, everything. They closed the grounds. They pulled their health permits just to make sure that they couldn't continue on with the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. This is a major, major event, and let alone the state of Texas, city of Houston, but the state of Texas. So, there's usually about, the hog show is going to go on too, and there's usually, I want to say there's 4,000 or 5,000 hogs maybe that go to the Houston show, and now all those hogs don't have anywhere to go. And of course, it's a market terminal show, so with the hogs, you go. That's the end of the line for them. And then there's probably usually about 1,300 or 1,400 steers that go, and it's also a market show for them. And if you make the sale, that's the end of the road for them. But you can take the calf home if you don't make the sale. But what I'm getting at is there was probably, I don't know, $10 to $20 million worth of livestock that had, that's really the whole reason you're showing is to get to that major show and try to get some money there and get a placing. But there was, probably $20 million worth of livestock with nowhere to go. So just in within a day after, so that Friday, the day after, the hog show there had already been people that had conjured up a new show, and I think it's going to be in Fort Worth. And they've already gathered up like close to $500,000 in donations to make that thing work. So I don't know how many hogs are going to go to that thing that we're going to go to Houston, but it's a large. And Texas just started their spring break right now we're on spring break. We're just starting. And so now there's been a steer show that's been put together, and it's going to be in Abilene. And there's been lots and lots of donations. And I mean, if they get this thing, so we're going to go to that. We're going to be going to Abilene on Wednesday and either show Thursday or Friday. I can't remember. I think depends on what breed you are. But so if they get this put together and this thing goes through, it's going to be just a mass. I'll be highly impressed that this thing gets put on, because just throw a show. They're expecting about 800 steers at the Abilene at this deal.
Yeah.
And that's just a preliminary. You know, like I said, Houston, there's usually 1,300 or 1,400, and this is going to be in Abilene. So, which is great for us because that's 5 hours closer for people up in the Texas Panhandle to drive to Abilene versus going to Houston. So, if this thing gets pulled off, I'll be, there's lots of money that come in, and the people that are putting it together have lots of connections. I know the Fort Worth steer superintendents are going to come run the sale or the show ring, and they've got San Angelo Stock Show. They're going to run the donations. They're going to process all of that, and they've got some people in high places that are really stepping up to the plate. So if this thing gets, if it doesn't get shut down by some, government, edict or however you want to call it, it's going to be a really impressive deal. So, that's what we're looking forward to. Not to mention all the things. Is that what I forgot? I'm sorry. Did you want to title this episode the topic, Casey?
Yeah, we're going to talk about coronavirus. So, yeah.
Okay.
There we go. We're official now.
Yeah. So, anyway, they canceled that. Houston, they had like a 7-day emergency deal. So, basically, it canceled any and all large events. Like they had some big bike race, tour to Houston type of deal or something. I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention, but so they pretty much canceled all big events in Houston. But yeah, so the coronavirus, Casey, why is this so different than any other quote unquote big disease epidemic that we've had?
I don't know. It's I've been giving this a lot of thought, and I kind of go both ways on it a little bit. I think the biggest issue that I have with it is if I got coronavirus tomorrow, I don't know that I would even notice it, because most of the people you talk that get it, that are healthy, that don't have some kind of underlying health problem, diabetes or bad heart or some respiratory disease or something like that already in the mix, or you're not elderly or whatever it is. It seems to be that it's not even as bad as a common cold from what I get, from what I understand from it. My biggest issue is the quarantine thing, the 14-day quarantine deal. So I guess where I worry about it the most is if I came down with it and I was at one of our locations and at work and that location has to get shut down now because 35 people came in contact with me and we had to close it down for 2 weeks, then what happens? I guess that's where my biggest hang up is, but it's a weird thing, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm on the CDC website, so the Centers for Disease Control. These are the symptoms. The following symptoms may appear. I need to talk to the microphone. Always get a landing for that. The following symptoms may appear 2 to 14 days after exposure: fever, cough, shortness of breath. That's it.
Yep.
Fever, cough, shortness of breath. So it goes on down further. If you develop emergency warning signs for COVID-19, get medical attention immediately. Emergency warning signs include difficulty breathing or shortness of breath, persistent pain or pressure in the chest, new confusion or inability to arouse. That's what she said.
Damn right.
Bluish lips or face. That's what she said. These are the emergency warning signs, Casey. These are the emergency. We had a AGR Christmas party my sophomore or junior year. I had these symptoms 2 days following that.
Yeah.
New confusion, inability to arouse, persistent pain, pressure in the chest, except my pressure was in my head. And I didn't really have difficulty breathing. Well, yeah, you could have said that. But I did have new confusion and an inability to arouse because I felt like shit for 2 days after dousing down my liver with 7 and 7.
Yeah. I think the biggest issue why it's such a big deal and why so many people they're worried so much about it, that it's such a strong respiratory issue that comes up, right? So the reason your lips turn blue and all those kind of things is because your body's lacking oxygen, and that's
right. Yeah,
that's one of those big things. So I don't know.
I mean, I know, and I was on Twitter yesterday, and they said it's amazing that 90% of the people are on Twitter now are all doctors. Yeah. I'm like, that goes back to the whole thing. It's like, I don't have to be a fireman to know there's a fire in a house.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not a doctor and I'm not a statistician, but I did take statistics. Mm-hmm. And if this was the case, if just the name, and I know everybody has compared this to the flu. Well, the flu kills lots more people. Well, yeah, It does. And why is it illogical to compare this to influenza? Do I need to go to the influenza statistics? Because I can. I'm typing it in right now on the CDC website. Okay, here we go. Search results. Improving influenza. Figure. That's 2009. God, their search engine sucks. Are you really going to make me do it on Google? Influenza.
It's the government, man. It's not the most efficient thing on the planet.
I know. Statistics. Here we go. Stats. 2020. That's what I want. Type. All right.
Type B, right?
More
type
than
A or
100
type B?
kids have died of the flu so far this season. I'm going to pull it up. Okay.
And there's type A and type B, right? And
type B
is the bad one, right?
The different strains. I don't know which one's worse.
I think it's type B. It's the bad one.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Weekly U.S. influenza surveillance report. Hospitalizations, okay. For the season, 61.6 per 100,000. The percentage of deaths attributed to pneumonia and influenza is 7.1%, below the epidemic threshold of 7.3%. Pediatric deaths, 8 influenza-associated pediatric deaths occurring between 2019 to 2020 season were reported this week. The total for the season is 144. That's just the pediatric. Let's see. And I want everybody to know.
Thing here.
Yeah. I want everybody to know that I'm not making light of this thing, okay? I'm not making light of people dying from whatever it is. Okay, so influenza A, number of positive specimens. Let's see. We're going to just do total influenza. Data cumulative since September 29th, 2019. Number of positive specimens, 39,644 out of 70,000 tested. So influenza A, H1N1 is 19,000, and then the influenza B, I guess the big one, now you're starting to get into the weeds of it, but 13,000 of Victoria lineage, so whatever that is. But I'm trying to find the real, the morbidity rate. Let's see what we can find here. But
okay, so I found 2019-2020 U.S. flu season preliminary burden estimates.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
All right. So look at the CDC website, and I'm trying to make heads or tails with this, but this is from October 2019 through March 7th of 2020. Flu illnesses, they're looking at 36 million to 51 million in that time frame. Medical visits, 17 million to 24 million. Flu hospitalizations, somewhere between 370,000 to 670,000. And flu deaths, somewhere between 22 and 55,000.
Okay. Those numbers seem bigger than, 40 deaths? 40.
No. Well, I think we got more than that, don't we?
Is there?
I think there's 1,000.
No, nationwide?
Yeah.
No.
I think so.
From COVID-19, there's been more than 40. I've got to talk into that damn microphone.
COVID.
Okay, let's see.
Deaths.
COVID-19 deaths, U.S.
Let's see. Because I know, for example, in Washington State, 29. They've had 29 deaths in Washington State. 27 of them were in the nursing home, but
yes, yeah. That you can't say that as an aside. It's very important.
Oh, it's wicked important.
Now, my grandmother, who's very old, she is 97 years old. She's in a nursing home. They closed all visitors, to the nursing home. That makes perfect sense. Nobody is more susceptible than a big building full of old people. That is very, very not expedient, but very positive and very thoughtful and very logical thing to do. Close down nursing homes where the most susceptible people are. Let's see if we can find the number. Yada, yada, yada.
Okay, so I found this from 3 days ago. Right now, total cases are...
All right, here you go.
All right.
How long did it take for the number of total confirmed cases to double? World, 27 days. China, 33 days. Italy, 5. Iran, 7. But we're talking. You got to talk about the numbers. Okay, so we've had 1,678 total cases in the United States.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
We had doubled in 3 days. Let's see. China has had 81,000 total cases since. What is that? They've had 81,000 total cases. The world has had 142,539 total cases confirmed. Now let's go on down to, man, I like those charts. Those are a whole lot better. Okay. Daily new confirmed. Now, you get into these charts, and obviously you can't do this over audio, but let's see.
Okay, so
total confirmed deaths due to COVID-19. That shows, 5,393 worldwide. That is worldwide.
So I found one that says this is as of March 15th at 2240 in green. So,
okay.
All right, so it says coronavirus cases 156,562. Total deaths 5,836, and 75,922 have recovered.
So here's a nice chart. It says the symptoms of coronavirus. 87% of the cases of coronavirus involves fever, 67% a dry cough, 38% fatigue, 33% of all cases get sputum production. So you're getting snotty nose. 18% of the time, you're getting shortness of breath. Then you get into the teens. Muscle pain or joint pain, 14%. Sore throat, 13%. Headache, 13%. Chills, 11%. Nausea or vomiting, 5%. Nasal congestion, 4%, like I sound right now. And diarrhea, 3.7% of cases get diarrhea. So,
Man.
Okay, here is another good one. Coronavirus, it has a pyramid, and the coronavirus, the severity of diagnosed cases in China, 81% are mild cases. Mild cases include all patients without pneumonia or cases of mild pneumonia. 14% are severe cases. Severe cases include patients suffer from shortness of breath, respiratory frequency, plus or minus 30 minutes, blood oxygen saturation less than 93%, which is really bad. And then some other numbers that you really do have to be a doctor to know. And then 5% are critical cases. 2.3% of all cases died. But it doesn't say here which people of those 2%, the percentage of that 2.3% are. Are they 80% old people, 20% people with compromised immune systems? These things are all the same as it were influenza.
Yeah, almost 4%. Yeah, it's almost 4%. I got 3.7%. And the overwhelming majority, I think it's, I saw a statistic, I think it was Thursday, that 87% of the people that are 65 and older that get yeah, I think it was right, that get coronavirus die.
Yeah,
and so it's really a lot like the influenza in the stats that the older you are, the higher chance you have of dying. Right? If you already have if you're unhealthy to start with, you have a higher chance of dying. If you have some kind of some kidney disease or heart disease or something like that, or some compromised immune system, you got cancer or something like that, you have a higher chance of dying. So it's the same outcome that you see in any other. It's not like Ebola that just kills everybody that gets in touch with it.
50% of people that get Ebola are dead, regardless of their biological situation, whether they're old, young, good immune system, bad immune system. If you get poured if you get a vat of acid, depending on which series of Batman you watched, chances are you're going to turn into the Joker regardless of your biological situation.
Right. Yeah.
So this can be said for any health condition, any disease, quote unquote, pandemic, epidemic. I don't know how they got to the pandemic thing. Is it because of the total number of cases? Well, if that's the case, influenza is a pandemic every single year, every single time. If it's because of the death rate, I think what is the death rate of influenza on a normal year? Like 1 point something percent, of cases, end up in death.
Let me go back to that screen I was here just a minute ago.
Well, they say COVID-19 is 2.3%. They said, well, that's doubled of influenza. Well, yeah, it's not hard to double one. It's like Pam when they're busting her balls, and they say, what did she do? Doubled her sales from 2 to 4? Yup. That's exactly what that is. Anybody can, it's not hard to double the number one.
Yeah.
So, it's just, what about SARS? SARS killed more people. Ebola is killed. I don't know if Ebola killed more people, but Ebola was extremely more dangerous than influenza. COVID-19.
Well, the thing about Ebola, it would never become a pandemic, and the reason for that is it kills people too quick, right? So
I don't know how long do you usually have? I wonder.
Like 24 hours.
Oh, 24 hours, you're dead. Yeah.
Well, not you're dead, but you have
you're pretty much
within 24 hours. You're showing very strong signals of Ebola, and within 3 days you're dead, or 5 days you're dead, or something like that.
Hell, you drink too many Bud Lights, you show symptoms in about 45 minutes.
Yeah, so, that's true. Yeah,
that's true. But that's a whole other weekend I spent. But yeah, so I don't get it. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it is interesting to somebody put, I don't know, on Twitter, and I know this is probably, you can take it for what it's worth. There's always some kind of epidemic or pandemic during an election year. Well, there's a pandemic or an epidemic every year when we have influenza, so you can just throw that out the window. But, people are obviously, we're so highly politicized that they're trying to throw this at Trump. And you really do have to talk the political side of it because, everybody else is in the media. And I think everybody is finally starting to, even some of the borderline or the fence riders are starting to say, you know what, they're trying to throw this at Trump, and he's done 100 times more than Obama ever did when it came to was it H1N1 and how many people died in the States. 1,000 people died before he took any action, and he wasn't even pushed to take any action until then. And they're trying to throw this at Trump. So of course you get on the freaking internet. It's a fest of you need to watch. You know what you need, Casey? You need a pair of dry shod muck boots to wade through the shit that goes on the internet. Yeah, all of the BS. This is a good place to put on your dry shod work boots.
Yeah, your dry shod work boots are definitely needed right now, and they are the official boot of the Moving Iron Podcast. Just wanted to throw that out there. So if you're looking for a good pair of boots, go find yourself some dry shod boots.
Hey, if you're out and you're kind of walking around your car and all you're doing is looking to kick your Dawson tires, kick your Dawson tires with some dry shod work boots.
That's funny.
Dawson tire.
So here you go. Here's one stat real quick. All right, so I went back to the CDC website, the 2019 through 2020 flu season estimates, what they're kind of thinking about. So I took the high side of everything. So I took 51 million cases is what they're guessing to have, and they're thinking there'll be 55,000 deaths, right?
Right.
Well, if you do the math on that, that's less than 1%.
Less than 1%, yeah.
Yep. And so I think that's what the big thing too. It's two things. One is it does have a higher. It might not have the infection rate that you see in the flu that you typically would see there, but what it does have is the infection rate is high. But the other side of it is it's the fear of the unknown, right? I mean, everyone's kind of used to living with the flu, and we know that during the flu season, you wash your hands and you do all the stuff that you don't go licking doorknobs and those kind of things, right? And this exact same stuff that we're supposed to do now. This whole raid on toilet paper thing is got me just completely baffled. That if the world's going to shut down for 2 weeks, I feel like I need more food than I need toilet paper, I guess.
Yes.
I mean, is that not a fair statement there?
because if you run out of the food, the toilet paper is not going to be an issue.
Right. Yeah, you won't need it. Yeah,
You won't need it. You'll be having dry farts for the next 14 days.
right. Yeah. I mean, I think there's so much more. This idea that, I kind of get the other day my wife went to Target to get some stuff, and she was just getting just basic cleaning supplies because we needed cleaning supplies, right? So she went to get like Lysol and Clorox wipes and those kind of things, and they were completely sold out, right? So
Wow.
I kind of sort of get that a little bit. It makes more sense. But the toilet paper aisle and the paper towel aisle and the paper napkins and all those kind of things were all sold out. It was just like bare shelves with nothing there. And
See,
I just don't get that. I don't understand
My
why
wife-
that is that way.
My wife went to we have Walmart here in Hereford. She went there a couple days ago, and she said it wasn't bare. Now, you could tell there were some shelves that were a little thinner stocked than what she's usually used to seeing, but nothing like you see. Of course, I mean, who's taking pictures of full shelves of toilet paper? And can we please stop with the toilet paper memes? This thing is playing out faster than the cat and the screaming chicks meme, okay? So I pulled up a good, and remember, what did I read in that pyramid of a symptom? No, not pyramid, but the bar chart. 2.3 to 3% of cases of COVID-19 get a diarrhea. So, okay, so here is this is a very credible. This is from John Hopkins website. Similarities: COVID-19 and the flu. Symptoms: both cause fever, cough, body aches, fatigue, sometimes vomiting, and diarrhea. Can be mild or severe, even fatal in rare cases. Can result in pneumonia. Transmission: both can spread from person to person through droplets in the air. A possible difference: COVID-19 might spread through the airborne route. Flu can be spread by an infected person for several days before their symptoms appear. And COVID-19 is believed to be spread in the same manner. We just don't know yet for sure. Treatment: neither virus is treatable with antibiotics, which only works on bacterial infections. Both may be treated by addressing symptoms such as reducing fever. Severe cases may require hospitalization and support, such as mechanical ventilation. Prevention: both may be prevented by frequent, thorough hand washing, coughing into the crook of your elbow, staying home when sick, and limiting contact with people who are infected. Differences: COVID-19, caused by one virus, the novel 2019 coronavirus, now called Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome Coronavirus 2, or SARS-CoV-2. Flu, caused by any of several different types and strains of influenza viruses. While both the flu and COVID-19 may be transmitted in similar ways, there also is a possible difference. COVID-19 might be spread through the airborne route. We already read that. Antiviral medications. COVID-19, antiviral medications are currently being tested. Flu, antiviral medications can address symptoms and sometimes shorten the duration of the illness. Vaccine, there's no vaccine for COVID-19. Flu, there is one. We already know that. Infections, COVID-19, approximately 153,000 cases worldwide, 2,508 cases in the U.S. as of March 14th. The flu, an estimated 1 billion cases worldwide, 9.3 to 45 million cases in the U.S. per year. Deaths, approximately for COVID-19, 5,789 deaths reported worldwide. 51 deaths in the U.S., Casey. So there you go for the U.S., 51. Flu, 291,000 to 646,000 deaths worldwide. 12,000 to 61,000 deaths in the U.S. per year. That is for influenza. The COVID-19 situation is changing rapidly since the disease is caused by a new virus. People do not have immunity to it, and a vaccine may be many months in the making. Doctors and scientists are working on estimating the mortality rate of COVID-19, but at present it is thought to be higher than that of most strains of the flu. So that's about the best side-by-side graphic I've seen.
Yeah. So I think this is probably one of those things where we're going to look back and say this might have been an overreaction.
This is the hype is going to hurt more people than it's easy for me to say that I don't have it. At least I don't think I have it. The stock market. the stock market matters. It's crashed 15%. Of course, they rallied it big time on Friday, but the cattle market, you got to talk that. We, by some miracle, sold all of our calves. We sold it probably a day after the first day of the break. And since we've sold our cattle, the cattle market's probably dropped another $10. And more fortunate, we cannot imagine how fortunate we are to get those cattle, off the books. So we were real fortunate with that. But cattle feeders now, are absolutely. I don't know what the break even is now, but I know they're well below it. I know I know June and August cattle are below $90 now. At least June is. Of course, June is always a weak month, but just for the simple fact of that's when all the cattle come out. But it's been big ramifications. People are losing jobs over this thing. I forget what they say. However many people lose jobs, that many people die just for whatever reason. But the ripple effect of this thing is going to be off the charts, and I think, I don't know, to get conspiratorial, they're trying to take Trump down with it, and barring anything that's crazy, that hadn't happened before, it'll probably all level out over the next month, and by, everybody gets back into election mode, it's going to be gone and maybe not forgotten, but definitely not a worry of the American public. They're going to be more worried about whether they have a job or not. So, and have something to wipe their ass with.
Right.
So, it's.
Well, I think
you're right.
There's a good opportunity here that I think two things here that have happened. This is the stock market's going to rebound. So I was looking at some doctors were talking about a few things, and they were saying that in 6 to 9 weeks we should start seeing a decline in new cases, just like we're seeing in China right now, right?
Yeah.
And Sean Hackett made a point when he was on the podcast here about that. And when they start seeing that this leveling off thing starts happening, the markets are just everyone's going to rush back in to resupply. And like his point was, China's going to need tons of supplies right now because they've shut down their whole country, right? They're not letting anything in or anything out. And it's been tough to get stuff in there, and the amount of stuff that's not been unloaded at the ports and those kind of things. So it's crazy. But the funny thing about this whole, the world's coming to an end, we can't find anything. When my wife was talking to me about what she saw at Target, I went to Amazon, and I could get hand sanitizer, toilet paper, cleaning supplies. It's all right there. I could all have it in a matter of just days. And I don't know. This might change the way people do business too, and this might be a turning point in the whole online shopping thing that we've seen in the past. Every year somebody's predicted the end of the world. Oh, yeah.
Going back to the whole Batman analogy, that story that Alfred talks about, about the guy that just loves to watch the world burn. Uh-huh. I think there are some people that have that mentality are behind some of the media hype. They just love to watch it burn, or they love to watch it burn for the people they don't like. Mm-hmm. And I hope you're right, but to be honest, humans have a very short attention span. They are a very short memory, and this kind of stuff they just forget about it.
Yeah.
Who remembers what the last quote unquote pandemic was? Was it SARS or was it bird flu? Most people can't even answer that for you, but by God, we were all going to die from it. Yeah. Especially Ebola, when they let the people, get into the, I think was it San Antonio or Houston? They let it be in a hospital or something. And of course they died, they're just, like you said, within 24 to 48 hours. Mm-hmm. And oh my God, the world was going to come to an end. And it's going to take more than that. Probably disease, although I am convinced disease will probably be the thing that does it. This is I'm calling this thing a mandemic. This is the biggest man-made pandemic I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
It's not like I've studied them or anything, but this is a mandemic. This is a man-made, it is a hoax as far as it being everybody's going to die. The actual virus, yes, it's real. The hoax of it is everybody's going to die from it. That's what the hoax is.
Yep.
And,
Yeah, definitely right. I think it's going to be it's going to be a virus. But if the power went out tomorrow, I mean, everybody's lights were out and no one could go do whatever they needed to do, and there was zero power anywhere and no groceries to get. I think I read a study on that somewhere that within 14 days there would be a third of the population would be dead or something like that, just from riots and all this fun stuff that go with it. So,
if the preppers ever had anything to give them credibility, this would be it. Yeah. You go to your local Walmart or, like you said, local Target, and you see some bare shelves and think, I only see this on TV. This doesn't happen in Nebraska or the Texas Panhandle. Yep. This happens in Wuhan, China, or Bangkok, over there. That doesn't happen here. Well, I can't be 100% honest and say it didn't kind of ruffle me a little bit when I heard it was possible that was happening here in the Texas Panhandle as far as, shortage of something. But then I kind of, came around and took a shot and went on. I'm like, yeah, we'll be fine.
The thing that surprised me more than anything, living where I'm at, is the number of people that were like, oh, we live out in the Nebraska Panhandle. We don't have to worry about anything like that. We don't live in New York or Los Angeles or those bigger cities. We're out here on our own. I'm like, I don't know if that's a good angle to have on life, because there's, we live in a small world where things kind of, people travel a lot more and do a lot of different things than they did 20 years ago.
Oh yeah, and back to the whole the cattle thing, the cattle industry thing. Those packing plants are the perfect environment for something to spread, because you have 1,500 people in one building, working together in a probably somewhat warm to humid environment,
right?
And if they shut down those things, the cattle market hasn't seen a disaster ever before like that.
Right.
Just when that one caught fire on one side of the building, it crashed the market for a week.
Yeah.
Devastated people. You close down packing plants for even a day, let alone a week or 2 weeks, you will never, it will be like the Great Depression.
And that was just one packing plant.
That was one. Yeah, exactly.
Just one.
Exactly.
It might have been a big one, but it was one. And it was, you're right.
You can't, you can get over it eventually. Like this one in Friona here close to us, it's, they do, I can't remember if it's 7,000 head a day or something. 7,000 head a day. You do that 1 week, that's what, 49,000 head. 7 days. They don't work all 7 days, but 6, they're working 42,000 head a week. And then those 42,000 head don't go anywhere. They get backed up, and then they get bigger and bigger. And then what are you going to do with them? It's an epic disaster. And if that were to happen, the cattle, it would be absolutely devastating. It would be apocalyptic for the cattle industry.
Let's just say you do 7,000 head a day times 20 working days in a month.
Yeah, 140,000
head. Take that times, let's say they do it 12 months out of the year, that's that is 1.68 million head of cattle.
Yeah.
That don't.
That's a bunch.
That's quite a bit. That's a fair amount. That's, if you think about that, put that in perspective. What's the largest in the world's largest feedlot in Hereford? Or was at one time?
No, not real. It's big. Like, they've got two that are kind of put together. Like, before they were put together, it was Bargee Feed Yard, and they had over 100,000. Yeah. I think there's somewhere that's bigger. That's actually just one site. Mm-hmm. But it's huge. It's 100. We have, I think we have 1 million head in maybe Des Smith County, which is Hereford.
Right.
So every year.
Put that in perspective.
1 million head every year.
Okay, so put that in perspective. The million cow, right? Those 1 million cows, and that come through that Des Smith County area, wouldn't go to slaughter.
Yeah. What do you do with them? They got to do something with them.
There's not enough product. Well, I'm sure there is. I'm sure they can ramp things up and run 3 three different, and do those kind of things.
but
it's not necessarily the most productive thing on the planet either to do that.
And it's like I was telling you off. My brother-in-law is the manager, the plant manager of that thing, and one of his bigger worry was them canceling school.
Oh,
and if they cancel school for 2 weeks or the rest of the freaking semester, all these employees with kids, they got to have something to do with them.
Yep.
And all of a sudden they've got employees without babysitters or support, people in their lives to keep these kids. I mean, it is such a ripple effect. I mean,
well, that's what Cuomo up there in New York, governor of New York, didn't want to close the schools in New York for that very reason, because of the healthcare providers they couldn't come in if there was a bigger issue, because they're going to be home taking care of the kids.
Right.
And what's that mean? So, I mean, I don't know if it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? I mean, do you keep schools open and let things kind of run their course, or do you close stuff down and then run a skeleton cruise, which doesn't work? Skeleton cruise never work.
And I don't know what kind of the age, like, it's always young children and old, elderly. Mm-hmm. Is when the kids start to become, 9 or 10, is that kind of when they start getting out of the danger zone, or is it maybe 4 or 5? I don't know what it is, but I would think when you're starting to get 8, 9, 10 years old, you're probably getting stout enough where you can handle it. You know? So do you go ahead and let some of the kids get the flu? I remember when I was a kid, pray to God I never get it, because I know it's awful, but I never got the flu. I've never had the flu. And I remember when I was a kid, literally half of my classes, my brothers were the same way. Our class would be half empty. And, we had, Hereford's a small town, but, like in my graduating class, we had 260. So, I mean, it's a decent sized town, but, there'd be classes of 30 kids and there would be 15, 16, 17, 18 gone, but I never got it. I never was out for the flu. I got sick, but sometimes, but never had the flu when the flu epidemic was going around.
Yep.
And so I guess we just had that certain immunity, or I don't know, we weren't as susceptible. And, it wasn't a pandemic. People just it's flu season, it's flu season. Wash your hands.
I did read an article the other day about that, where they were talking about the reason the flu still exists is because they didn't do enough to not let it get ingrained into society. So
just accept it.
Well, it's just like they didn't do anything to try to eradicate it. It's just one of those things where people got sick and more sick and more sick, and then it just kind of lays around now, and you can kind of get it. It's just there, and I'm not probably explaining it well enough, but it's something to that effect that it's one of those things, like the guy made a good point the other day, that if the Spanish influenza would have happened today, there probably wouldn't have been that big of a deal as it was in 1918, because the majority of the people died from not necessarily the flu, but the symptoms of the flu, and that's dehydration and those kind of things all kind of started playing effect into that, and then just the same knowledge of medicine wasn't there. So it'd be interesting to see the bubonic plague or something like that, if it happened today.
Of course,
what would that look like?
Of course, that was a different animal. I mean, that was all from rats and fleas and everything. But of course, the flu. I mean, it's people get the vaccine and they can still get it. But I got it. I got it super late. I got it in February, and so I was dodging people. And I never had the flu before. And I didn't, there wasn't, I don't think they had flu shots back when we were in elementary school, did they? I mean, that was in the late 80s. They didn't really start having flu shots till the 90s sometime, did they? Or even.
I don't ever really remember flu shots being a big deal till the late 90s, early 2000s. That's kind of when I remember it popping them, but who knows? I mean, it could have been around before that.
But I've only gotten a flu shot maybe for the last 4 or 5 years is all.
I've never gotten a flu shot.
Always get some kind of,
I've never got one.
Oh, you haven't? Okay. So you're an anti-vaxxer.
Not so much. I just don't see the point.
How's your polio working out?
It's okay. The sugar cube was nice. It was.
Do your knees start to hurt when there's a cold front coming in?
Just the iron lung gets a little bit claustrophobic, but other than that, it's all right.
Of course, the flu deal. I mean, there's I mean, I don't know how many strains. There's not that many strains, is there? I mean, I
Well,
know the
that's the
common
thing.
cold.
I mean, that's the reason I don't get a flu shot, right? Because they're guessing on what the strain is going to be. They're guessing if it's even going to be the right strength. I mean, it's a total. I'm not saying that it's a total guess and they have no idea if it's going to work or not, but it's a total guess and they're not for sure if it's going to work or not. So I figure if I'm going to get the flu, I'm going to get the flu. And then
but I was running the numbers. I'm like, if they get it wrong, then I guess I get it anyway. But I've got a damn sure good chance of getting it if I don't get the vaccine. So I'm going to go ahead and take it.
Yeah.
But I always do get, like, I don't know how many days after. I can't remember. Maybe 5 or 6 days after. I always get a little feverish for a day.
Well, yeah, man, it is a. You get.
I mean,
the flu,
I don't know if
they
it's
give you the flu.
I don't know if it's
a dead virus.
I mean, if it's a killed virus or a modified live virus. I mean, I only know that because that's when we vaccinate cattle, there's a killed virus and a modified live virus. I would assume they're giving us the killed virus, but nonetheless, your body is still fighting an antigen. Or I don't know if that's the route, if it's an antigen, but whatever the case is, I always get it. So I just assume this is better than getting the full blown flu. I can just imagine. So I just do it and go on, and if I have a day of where I'm kind of down, then so be it. But it's better than getting the full blown flu because it looks like hell.
It's tough. It's a tough one, but
yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. I don't know that I've ever gotten. I mean, I get some stomach bugs and those kind of things, but I've never had like influenza. So
no, I haven't either. So yeah, I count myself lucky.
Yep.
But especially how many cases did it say every year?
51 million
for just the United States.
Right. Yeah.
We're what, 300 million?
350
million of 300 million. That's what. Is that?
Well, we're 350 million. So
350 million.
10%
okay.
would be 35 million. 1% would be 3.5 million. So meaning.
So it would be we're at 12 or 13%, 15% of the entire population gets the flu.
Right. Yep.
And that's not a pandemic. Then 50 to 60,000 die.
Yeah, you got to have something like it's got to be over 8% or 7% or something like that of the people that get it die. So,
well, that's what I was going to say. What are they using it as a pandemic number? Is it the percentage, the mortality rate? I guess it's obviously not the sheer number, just the gross number. I guess it's got to be a percentage.
Yeah, it's a number. I think it has to do with the
mortality rate.
Here,
I don't know.
It has something to do with the number of deaths and what percent of that is, and then is it prevalent across multiple continent, like more than just one continent. So every country in the world, every country in the world's got it except for I think like Antarctica. I mean,
that's a hotbed of disease down there. Let me tell you.
Yeah, but so I don't know.
In Greenland. Yeah,
I don't know. Good times. All right, man. Well, I feel like we've discussed the coronavirus here for 47 minutes. So I feel like we've knocked it in the head pretty good there.
You've probably got 15 minutes of quality content in there. So
of course, yeah, we can dub it down a little bit. What tell folks about the Dryland Farmer podcast and where they can find it.
Dryland Farmer podcast is a great podcast you can listen to. We're in the Global Ag Network, although we don't hardly ever talk ag anymore. It's usually something stupid. Let's see. This week, Landon and I talked. What did we talk about? We talked some coronavirus, and let's see. Well, actually, I've got my notes here. We talked about OJ and OJ Simpson and his toilet paper buying spree there at Costco, and what a sorry piece of shit he is. Mm-hmm. And listen to the American Bitch segment that debuted this week. Now, bitch is a verb, not a noun in this instance. Okay. I know how you can be confused on it being a noun, but it's not. I could have said, listen to the American bitch, but I didn't know how that would be translated, so I just left it there. So, so we're on the Global Ag Network. We talk about all things. We try not to take ourselves too seriously, and that's very easy to tell when you listen to the podcast. We're all over social media. We're on Twitter. You can follow me at Trader Brent. My co-host Landon is at NoTwitLandon44. And we have a good time there. We're all over iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and all the great places where they just give away podcasts for free. They don't charge you nothing.
Yeah, that's a good thing about those podcasts. They're free, thank God.
You get what you pay for.
Exactly right.
And now I've got this awesome virtual background now.
Yeah, dude, this is great.
I feel like Howard Stern.
We're going to have all kinds of cool backgrounds, and we're going to take this live to YouTube as soon as we get the backgrounds. I've been working this internet thing, trying to get this YouTube thing backed up and running, and now I finally got it. I figured it out, and it was way simpler than I thought it was going to be, so outstandingly awesome.
One thing I could never be is an IT guy. I can already tell.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, you can find the Moving Iron podcast on the exact same places that Brent just rambled off there. Global Ag Network. Check out all the good podcasts are there. Make sure you check me out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Moving Iron LLC. Check out movingironllc.com for all the things that have to do with Moving Iron podcast, Moving Iron Summit coming up here in Nashville. Make sure you guys check that out. Go out and check out the blog and stuff I have up there. Also, check out the official work boot of Moving Iron podcast, the dry shod boot, and it's a great thing. Check it out. I wore them today in the snow. Outstandingly awesome. My feet stayed warm and dry. So more could you ask for in a work boot?
Me too, and I played golf. Not poorly. If coronavirus had a golf game, you could have seen it today.
Yeah, I'm not a good golfer at all. I'm a good drinker.
I wasn't today.
I'm a good drinker.
Pretty awful.
But not much of a golfer. But you played golf today, and it snowed up here. So in a matter of probably just 600 miles, there's enough difference. But hey, it's north. It's wintertime, and we've had 70-degree warm temperature for the last, I don't know, seems like the last 2 weeks. So we were probably due for a little snow in March here. So good times. So anything else you want to throw out there, Brent, before you shut it down?
Quit buying up all the damn toilet paper. And we have a great sponsor this week. Our sponsor on the Dryland Farmer podcast was Blue Shop Towels. They are the unsung heroes. If you run out of toilet paper, your ass will thank you for it.
Right on.
And from everybody at Blue Shop Towels, we'd be honored to wipe your ass.
That's a good one. If there's any more reason to listen to the Dryland Farmer podcast, I can't think of one out there. So,
I can't.
Until next time, I'm Casey Seymour with Brent Carlson. Thanks to Dawson Tire and Tractor Zoom for what you do for the podcast. And till then, have a good one. Out.
Moving higher in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving higher, time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here.